Old is a movie that I feel like a lot of people hated, but I fucking loved. Let's do it. Old is about this family of four that goes to this resort for vacation, and we find out like the mother and father are separating. So it's kind of like the last vacation, and they're there with their young children, Maddox and Trent, who obviously don't know that their parents are separating. At the resort, they talk to some other people around, and the kids also befriend the nephew of the resort owner. So later that night, the parents are fighting, and we find out that the mom, Priska, has ovarian cancer. So the next day, Priska and Guy, the mom and dad, they get invited along with a bunch of other people to this secluded beach by the resort's manager. So with them is another family who is Charles, his wife Crystal, his mother, and then their young daughter Kara. This couple named Jaron and Patricia, and this guy Brendan, who's a rapper who goes by the name Mid-Size Sedan. I don't know. And he's there with some blonde girl. They get there, everybody's having fun, and Trent, who again is a child, is swimming, and this body just floats up and like taps into him. Turns out it's the girl that Brendan showed up with, and she is dead. So obviously everybody starts questioning Brendan, and he's acting super suspicious. And he's also getting a bunch of nosebleeds, which he says is because he has hemophilia. And then all of a sudden, the children rapidly start growing. Like Maddox, who was a whole-ass child, now has to use the bathing suit of a full-grown woman on the beach. And then Charles's mother, who was older, dies. So between all these strange events, everybody puts together that the beach is like rapidly aging them. And they guesstimate that like a half an hour is equivalent to 1 year of aging. They also get to talking and realize that in every family, at least one person has an underlying medical condition. So as we already discovered, Brendan has hemophilia, Priska has ovarian cancer, Patricia has epilepsy, which we actually found out earlier at the resort when she had a seizure, and Charles is schizophrenic. So obviously they just try to walk out, they try to leave the beach. But once they get past a certain point, they just wake up blacked out back on the beach. Charles again is schizophrenic, and he's growing increasingly bizarre, and he ends up cutting Brendan in a fit of rage. And everybody watches as his injury just immediately heals. Meanwhile, Priska's ovarian tumor starts growing at an alarming rate, to the point where it's about to kill her. But Charles, who is still somewhat mentally there, is a surgeon and performs an emergency surgery on her. And it works. And then we discovered that the girl who was with Brendan who died, her body has like completely decomposed in just a small amount of time. And then Trent just becomes a teenager. And so does Kara. And the two of them end up having sex, and she gets pregnant. Now again, time is passing rapidly, so she almost immediately carries a full-term pregnancy and gives birth. However, when the baby gets there, they put it down for a minute to clean it up, and the baby dies from lack of attention. Charles's condition continues to worsen to the point where he violently stabs and kills Brendan. Kara tries to climb up this like rock wall to get to the top and get out of the beach that way, but she falls and dies. Jaron tries to swim out and see if he can get anywhere, but he drowns and dies. And then Patricia has an epileptic seizure and dies. Guy's eyesight starts to get blurry, and Priska starts to have some hearing loss, so they're aging again, rapidly. Trent and Maddox are exploring, and they end up finding this notebook, and it's clearly from somebody who was previously trapped on the beach, and it also indicates that they're being watched. In this horrific scene, Crystal's bones rupture from hypocalcemia, and then Charles attacks Priska and Guy, at this point completely losing mental control. Priska cuts him with a rusty knife, which then poisons his blood and kills him immediately. Priska and Guy at this point are elderly, and they sit around a fire and kind of like make amends with each other, and then they die. So now that just leaves Trent and Maddox, who are full-ass middle-aged adults. Obviously still with the minds of children. But then they think back to this message that they got from the resort owner slash manager's nephew, and they realize that it's a fucking clue telling them how to get off the island. And basically they discover that there is this underwater coral passage, and if they swim through it, they might not lose consciousness like they do when they try to walk off the beach, and they might be able to escape. So they start swimming. It's a super intense scene. They're underneath. They get like stuck in the coral, and they never emerge. Now at this point, we see that they've been being watched by this man on top of a cliff, who was played by M. Night Shyamalan himself, of course. And when they don't resurface, he radios somebody to confirm everybody's dead. And then the resort manager announces that Trial 73 has concluded. And now it's revealed to us what actually is happening. Turns out this resort is just a secret cover-up for this pharmaceutical company. They administer drugs that they are doing trials of to guests at this resort by spiking their drinks. And then they send said guests to this beach that they know rapidly accelerates life. So essentially they are able to complete a lifelong drug trial in 1 day. We never come to learn how the beach turned out this way. It just seems like they happened to find it, and it's like a blessing. And obviously they screen the guests at this resort for medical conditions to know who has what before sending them to the beach and drugging them. And then the researchers go to bring a new group to the beach. But just fucking kidding, because they're infiltrated by middle-aged Trent and Maddox, who ended up surviving. And they have the notebook that they found on the beach as evidence to bring to the police. So some time passes and the police officer explains how everybody involved with this at the resort has been arrested. And he also discusses plans to reunite Maddox and Trent with their aunt, who they're now older than. So that's fucking weird.